Rick, realizing the gravity of the situation, nervously say that Mephis doesn't need to take it so seriously. He was just asking. However, Rick, already expected this answer. After all, a seal means everything to a demon, and asking about it is like asking to have everything taken away, so for now, it's what has to be given up. Although Rick, know that the seal of original sin is the seal of the Prince of Darkness. He thinks that if using the seal of cruelty was enough to knock him out, then he won't be able to use the seal of original sin anyway. So Rick, ask Mephis if he knows the King of the Mountain. And Mephis admits that he does, but asks why Rick, want to know. Rick, explain that they said this is the tomb of the King of the Mountain, and that he has to defeat him here, which surprises Mephis a lot. Mephis knew that Otihan was crazy, but he never thought he would be insane enough to send me, Rick, against someone as powerful as the King of the Mountain. Rick, smile, and ask if Mephis has any idea, but Mephis immediately shakes his head in denial, and Rick, try to convince him, saying that the King of the Mountain isn't even a demon anymore, so there shouldn't be a problem telling him this. This infuriates Mephis, who shouts if Rick, really expect him to reveal the greatest secret of his kind that could be his greatest weakness. Rick, make an offer. 3 days without the charm of cuteness. Mephis refuses, so Rick, improve the proposal. 5 days without the charm of cuteness. Now this sounds appealing to Mephis, and he agrees. Referring to himself as the benevolent prince, Rick, laugh. Realizing that it only took 5 days to convince him, now Mephis gets serious. He said that the way Rick, am now, I won't even be able to get close to the King of the Mountain, much less pass the test of my ancestor. Still smiling, Mephis says there is a path I can follow. The next thing Rick, realize is that I'm back in the icy mountains, determined to make good use of the hint Mephis gave me. The hint was that I need to improve my achievement status depending on the rarity of a seal. It can be classified as normal, great, prestigious, original, or mythical. Each of these levels requires a certain level of achievements that determines my proficiency with the seal. Mephis also told me that the seal of cruelty is of prestigious category, which is relatively high. At the moment, Elric's achievement status is at 1 star at most, while the seal of the King of the Mountain is at 10 stars, so he needs to raise his achievement to 10 stars, or become an original class wizard. Elric doesn't believe he is only at 1 star, but he is motivated to show everyone the determination of a Mervinger. He doesn't care. If he has to do this 100 or 1,000 times, he will devour them all now. Rick, find myself once again in the cold mountains, facing the King of the Mountain once more. He knows that fighting all the soldiers, if he has to do this 100 or 1,000 times, he will devour all of them now. It is Rick who finds himself again in the cold mountains, facing the Mountain King once more. He knows that fighting against all the soldiers is raised his achievement status to 2 stars, which means he will have to face the Mountain King directly. To increase his stars even further, he sees the black cloud of dark energy that at first he thought was just the shadow of the Mountain King. He wonders how powerful the Mountain King must be to still be so strong. Even after death, he questions whether the Oturan really wants him dead, considering the task he was given. Even so, Rick is still motivated to devour the Mountain King, but suddenly he sees himself opening his eyes once again in his grandfather's house. He laughs, saying he worked hard to collect the seal, but didn't even see it coming. However, he feels a bit worried about how he should defeat something so powerful. Mephis tries to betray him into giving up, but it's Rick who loves the idea of devouring something so strong. A greedy look appears on his face that Mephis notices. Then something unexpected happens. Rick asks Mephis if the Mountain King was actually a woman, which visibly makes Mephis shudder. Rick stares at him, and Mephis is bewildered, wondering why he is looking at him that way. It's when Rick realizes that something must have happened between the Mountain King and the Prince of Shadows. Something strange and suspicious. Something he will discover in time. His priority now is to devour the Mountain King, even though he is not sure how he will do it. But one thing is certain, he will figure it out after knocking her to the ground. Rick leaps towards the Ice Queen, shouting for her to die. The Ice Queen uses her ice spell on Rick. Rick feels the pain in his body and head after that. Rick breaks the ice spell of the Ice Mountain King, realizing he is slowly getting closer to her, little by little, and can finally see her face. The Ice Mountain King growls at Elric, and he realizes how to use the seal of cruelty of the Ice Mountain King. Elric knows it is difficult for someone like him, who just acquired the seal, to overcome the being that has already dominated him. He thinks with determination that he will overcome her. The Ice Mountain King growls again at Elric, and he presses his palm against the palm of the Ice Mountain King. Elric murmurs that he will overcome her even if he has to steal everything from the Ice Mountain King. The Ice Mountain King throws Elric away with her ice spell, and Elric falls. Turhan watches the scene and thinks it wouldn't be strange for Rick if he keeps dying like this. He sees that Elric is still smiling and realizes that Elric not only has innate talent, but also possesses an unwavering will and an infinite desire to improve. Seeing Elric cut the arm of the Ice Mountain King, Otto realizes that Elric is someone who would never appear even in his family. He believes that Elric is a lunatic. Rick laughs, saying he has reached the level of 3 to 5 stars. In an instant, the Ice Mountain King attacks me. Rick, try to defend myself, saying that the Ice Mountain King doesn't even give me time to breathe. Rick, use my powers to protect myself from the Ice Mountain King's spell, feeling my powers weaken against her. Rick, curse and wonder if this is my limit. I realize that merely stealing is not enough to defeat the Ice Queen of the Ice Mountain, and I must become her. The tattooed hand of Rick shines, and I feel my body weaken. I wonder if I have died again after this. Rick, take a look at the memories of the Ice Mountain King. Rick, see Mephisto, coming towards the Ice Mountain King and asking her to prove that she is worthy enough to be part of her race. Seeing this, Rick, wonder what is happening. Rick, observe the past of the Ice Mountain King and see that their demon god, their queen, the leader of the Highlands, delivered an oracle to them. Rick, see that the Ice Mountain King was born to be the king who would rule the Ice Mountain, but she could not be satisfied with just the Ice Mountain, even being the first in the history of the Ice Mountain to unite the tribes. The Ice Mountain King decided to reclaim her former glory, saying that since they were once part of the powerful demon race, they would return once again to their rightful place. Rick, see in the memories of the Ice Mountain King that besides the common Ice Mountain, they made countless humans and demons kneel before them, and finally became part of the demon race once again. And even more, the Ice Mountain King tried to become a demon king, but the wall of an all-powerful demon king, Mephistopheles, was too high, and the Ice Mountain King had no choice but to taste the bitterness of defeat. However, the Ice Mountain King never stopped, and did whatever it took to enhance her true name and evolve her seal. The Ice Mountain King tells Elric that she took the first step and that he could receive the recognition of Mephistopheles, but she was blocked by a wall steeper than anything she had ever faced before. All forces attacked her team, and her comrades began to plead for their lives. The Ice Mountain Queen shouted at them, reminding them that they were members of the proud demon race and that there was nothing they could not accomplish. She recounts that Rick, saw Tohan Mervinger attacking them relentlessly. That was how they lost the war against the humans led by Tohan, and were repelled. Back to the Ice Mountain, the Ice Mountain King shouted to the High Frog, asking why the humans who already had everything could not allow creatures like them to have even a small part of it. Crying, the King of the Ice Mountain looks at me, Rick, and slowly rises. Rick, watch him with sadness. Then he touches his chin and says that despite the despair, she endured countless sufferings to reclaim the glory of her race. He tells her that he appreciates her, recognizing that it is a great, noble duty from the past after that battle. The Turhan established himself on the Ice Mountain to watch over it through countless battles. The two came to respect each other and spent a lot of time together. However, the Queen of the Ice Mountain, unable to completely free herself from her ambitions, ended up becoming a monster and met her end at the hands of Otto. In the present, the Queen of the Ice Mountain tells me, Rick, that I must be the descendant of whom Otto once spoke, smiling at Elric. She said that seeing how he erased a part of her obsession and even cut off his arm, it seems that Otto's bravado was not mistaken. Elric immediately apologizes, expressing regret for his lost arm. The King of the Ice Mountain laughs and tells him that even having ended this way, unable to abandon her ambitions, she is still a king and a warrior who once led her race. She says she does not need pity from her enemy. Upon hearing this, I, Rick, am somewhat shocked. The King of the Ice Mountain continues, saying that it seems the time has finally come to end this long battle. She says it is time to apologize to her people and honor their sacrifices. She admits that she regrets having wished to be part of the demonic race, realizing now that simply being happy with those she loved would have been enough. Watching her, Rick realizes that the Queen of the Ice Mountain is being consumed by demonic energy. He wonders what he should do upon seeing her awaken her powers. He remembers that his opponent is the Queen of the Ice Mountain, the ruler who united the vast Ice Mountain, the greatest warrior of the BeastBrawlDT, and an enemy he must overcome. Rick knows he must use all his strength to defeat her, both out of necessity and as a sign of resolute respect. Rick, decides to show her the greatness she had built. They glare at each other, grinding their teeth, the anger in their bright eyes burning stronger than ever. In the next second, they enter into battle against each other as they use their powers. The king of the Ice Mountain attacks Rick with his axe, and he grits his teeth, knowing he needs to become him. They continue to fight, and it is Rick who starts to feel strange, realizing that he is enjoying it, even though it is clearly a life or death battle. It is Rick who attacks the king of the Ice Mountain with all his anger and wonders why this feels fun. He realizes that he can feel the days filled with happiness that the king of the Ice Mountain spent with Otto Hahn. The Ice Mountain King pushes Rick away, but he blocks his attack. They both jump and land in front of each other. Once again having reached their limits, they prepare for the final blow. Knowing that the battle will be decided at this moment with the technique that brought countless races to their knees, which is the secret art of the Ice Mountain King, ice break. They both stared at each other and pressed their palms together. The ice begins to crack, and it is Rick who delivers the final blow. The Ice Mountain King laughs and thanks Rick. In the end, it is Rick who looks down and gasps. His eyes widen upon seeing the tears on the Ice Mountain King's face. Then the Ice Mountain King smiles and begins to disappear in a bright light. When it completely vanishes, it is Rick who notices the flowers. Blooming in the place where he was, he wishes that his soul rests in peace and realizes that his first mission has come to an end. Turhan applauds Rick and praises him, saying that he really succeeded. Swallowing the Ice Mountain King Elric asks him if the first mission is very difficult. From the beginning, Turhan replies that in their family, everything is possible. He tells Elric that he cannot call himself a Mervinger if he cannot overcome something like this. Elric sighs and realizes that is why Chan calls the Mervingers. Selfish Turhan walks towards Elric and admits that he is still surprised. He tells Elric that even having talent he thought it would take at least 1 to 3 years. Turhan tells Elric that he never imagined that a person like him who learned magic just a few years ago would be able to defeat the Ice Mountain King. Elric corrects Turhan, saying that it has only been 1 month since he learned magic. Elric counts on his fingers and states that since a month has passed here, now it is 2 months. Turhan tells Elric that he is terrible at making jokes. Elric stares at him seriously and Turhan asks if it really isn't some joke. Egotist of Mirvinga. Elric sighs and Turhan laughs. He hugs Rick, saying that he definitely has a good eye for people. Rick tries to quote what Otto Ham was saying earlier. Otto Ham curses Rick while laughing and hugs him tighter. Rick shrinks in pain. When Turhan's beard hurts him, then Turhan wonders how the final moments of the Ice Mountain King were, and Rick replies that he was smiling. And upon hearing this, Turhan feels relieved. Elric leans in and thanks him for everything. Turhan advises Elric to be careful on the way back. Elric tells him that he probably won't be able to visit frequently, to which Turhan reassures him, saying that he understands the position of head of a family is a full task. Elric begins to leave, but suddenly turns and asks Turhan how he will get out of here. Turhan laughs and tells Elric that he has already left countless times. He asks Elric if he doesn't remember. Elric looks at him confused, while Turhan throws an ice crystal towards Elric. Elric finds himself back in the place and curses Otto Hahn, worried about his handsome face, while Mephisto laughs at Elric. Rick shouts, asking who kills someone without warning. Mephisto asks Rick if he devoured the Ice Mountain King, and Rick discovers his tattooed hand. He responds that it just happened. Mephisto laughs and claims that it is all thanks to his support, and Rick agrees. Calling Mephisto the best demon, he tells Mephisto that he surely turned the stage upside down. Hearing this, Mephisto looks at him in disbelief, thinking that all he did was tell him a few things. He transcends the realm of a genius, which leaves Mephisto wondering if it is Rick. It is the monster. Rick tells Mephisto that he is curious about something. He asks Perfesio if he had a special relationship with the Ice Mountain King, and why he is prevented from becoming a demon. Perfeccio asks Uwe how he knows this, and Rick smiles, responding that he just took a look at the Ice Mountain King's memories, and because he is prevented from becoming a perfect demon, he asks Yui how he knows this. It is Rick. Mephisto answers his question, saying that he is a demon king, and that the Ice Mountain King is the history of the demonic race. There is nothing more about it. Mephisto explains that back then he was just bored, but he heard that there was someone who claimed they would become a demon on the Ice Mountain, so he went to see what they were like. He tells Rick that the Ice Mountain King was a bit lacking to become a demon king, but his ambition and skill were commendable. Mephisto asserts that if the Ice Mountain King had not encountered a benevolent king like him, but someone like Azazel or Lilith, he would have been torn to pieces. Mephisto adds that in any case, he told the Ice Mountain King to seek him out again once he got stronger, and simply left him. Rick asks Mephisto if that is all, and if he will never meet the Ice Mountain King again. He shouts at Rick, asking why on earth he would want to meet her. Rick watches the memories of the Ice Mountain King and Otto Hahn, and understands what happened. He laughs, and Mephisto asks what he understood. Elric laughs and asks Mephisto if he knows how boys tease the girls they love unilaterally. Mephisto shouts at Elric, asking what he is talking about. Elric mocks Mephisto, saying that is why he is still single after more than 1,000 years. Mephisto curses Elric, asking how he dares to mock him. Elric continues to mock him, calling him single. Mephisto shouts for Elric to die. On the other hand, Otto Hahn punches the sky, thinking about how entertaining his descendant is. Internally, he asks the Ice Mountain Queen if she thinks the same. Otto Hahn internally asks her if she hates him. He has flashbacks of the Ice Mountain Queen crying while holding the baby in her hands because she killed him with her own hands. He asks the Queen of the Ice Mountain if she thinks the same. The author internally asks her if she hates him. He has flashbacks of the Queen of the Ice Mountain crying while holding the baby in her hands because she killed him with her own hands. She looked at Turhan and begged him to kill her. Pulling away from the memories, Turhan joins his palms together. He apologizes to the Ice Mountain King, looks up at the sky, and asks the Ice Mountain King to let go of his regrets and duties for that child and to rest in peace. Turhan continues to look at the sky and asks the Ice Mountain King to meet him again in the next life. He sighs, hoping that she will be more beautiful than before. Mephisto asks Elric what he is looking for. Elric flips through the book and replies that he is searching for something. Elric rolls a crystal of ice between his fingers, and Mephisto asks if it is an ice crystal. Elric recalls his previous conversation with Otorhan. Altuhan throws an ice crystal towards Elric and asks him to catch it and find the god of camellia. Elric asks Altuhan if he is referring to the camellia flower. Altuhan confirms Elric's question, saying that this person will become his new guide. Elric asks Otorhan if this is also a task. Otorhan replies that it is. Elric questions how long he will have to perform the tasks because he will become an old hunchback at this rate. Otorhan tells Elric that it will be until he reaches the level of their progenitor. Elric looks at Otorhan with confusion, and he tells Elric that he knows he must have many questions, but all will be answered naturally over time. Otorhan explains that the progenitor both accomplished and left many things on this earth. Otorhan tells Elric that they have prepared many tasks for him to follow the progenitor, so all he needs to do is walk diligently along this path. Elric agrees, saying that he will just make sure to take this ice crystal with him. Turhan apologizes to Elric for placing this heavy burden on him, saying that this path is one that only he, the Lord of Mervingr, can tread. He asks Elric to go and perfect the winter. Elric informs Mephisto that he was instructed to take this ice crystal to the god of camellia. Mephisto laughs and says that the other one is trying to create winter. He asks Mephisto if he knows what winter means. Mephisto replies that he knows it, as his 4 abdominal seasons that haunted kings and demons like him. Elric asks Mephisto to tell him more about it in detail. Mephisto asks Elric why he would do that. Elric offers a 4-day exemption from Edil. Mephisto smiles, asking how long the exemption from Edil will last. Elric grits his teeth and adds a silence exemption to his offer, saying that he will not do more than that. Mephisto laughs and agrees. Mephisto begins to explain that there are 4 vassals who helped his progenitor to raise the foundation of Mervinga. Mephisto tells Elric that their names are Summer, Autumn, Spring, and Winter because their personalities and characters matched each of the seasons. The demons called them the 4 seasons. He informs Elric that, among them, the Turhan matched the winter. Mephisto tells Rick that anyway, the fact that someone like that has been left behind as a guide for the assignments would mean that the Turhan is trying to pass on to him the power that he once had. Hearing this, Rick wonders if once this task is completed, he can also receive tasks from the other 4 seasons. Obtaining the powers of the 4 seasons would mean that he could become as strong as the progenitor they watched. Rick looks at his tattooed hand and wonders if he can continue to absorb seals as powerful as the seal of cruelty, or even stronger, so that it is not impossible to rebuild the family. He asks Mephisto what is important about this ice crystal for the god of camellia. Needing it, Mephisto replies that the ice crystal is the core of winter, formed only in the deepest parts of an ice mountain, covered with perpetual snow. Mephisto adds that, in other words, it is the egg of a spirit, and since the camellia is a flower that blooms in winter, there is no better vessel than the ice crystal. Rick asks where he has to go to find the god of camellia. Mephisto replies that it is probably at the Temple of Flowers somewhere to the north. Rick looks at Mephisto with disbelief and confesses that he has only heard of it in stories. He asks Mephisto if it really exists. Mephisto confirms his suspicion and replies that the noisy bastard is probably guarding the temple. Rick knows that he can only be sure after consulting the records in the Imperial Library. He stares at Mephisto and realizes that he is being too friendly. Rick wonders what Mephisto is planning. This time, Rick notices that Mephisto's spiritual form has become a little more vivid. Mephisto smiles, realizing that Rick seems to have noticed that his power has returned a bit. He laughs, thinking that Rick has no choice but to get stronger. Through the tasks, Rick realizes that although the tasks make him stronger, they also make Mephisto stronger at the same time. He thinks he might be reviving a great demon king, who will plunge this world into despair. Mephisto notices the strange expression on Rick's face and laughs, thinking that Rick must be scared. Mephisto knows that he is uncomfortable with the idea of letting the Mervinger get stronger, but he can't do anything because his recovery is a priority. He sees Elric smiling in a frightening way, and wonders why he is smiling again, and if he has gone insane. It's Rick laughing, thinking that this means he can take even more from Mephisto. He knows that for Mephisto to regain his power and escape him, he will have to become stronger. And Rick tells Mephisto that, since he has done everything he needed, they should go back up, as they begin to ascend. Rick tells Mephisto that it was difficult to come down here just a month ago, but now it's a piece of cake. Mephisto tells Rick that he is truly egocentric to the core. Rick asks Mephisto if he will go to where the Crimson Eye tribe is, since he needs a guide. Rick knows he isn't sure if it's because he has been in conflict with the Yetis for so long, or because he swallowed the seal of the Ice Mountain King, but he kind of wants to see them. Rick's eyes widen when he sees the dead bodies of the Yetis and blood everywhere. He wonders what happened here. Mephisto looks around and observes that they were killed slowly, when they could have been killed instantly. They must have been used for entertainment. Mephisto says he doesn't know who did this, but they have a much more atrocious nature than most demons. Rick claims he feels like crap. He thinks that since the Yetis are monsters, they can die at any moment. Rick knows that although he has killed many Yetis, he never treated them like toys. Rick grits his teeth when he feels an uncomfortable sensation. He wonders if it's because he swallowed the duty of the Ice Mountain King. Rick calms down, reminding himself that he is not the Ice Mountain King, and does not have the right to feel pity for the Yetis. In the next moment, he sees something on the snow layer. He starts digging through the snow, and pulls out the dead body of a child. Rick screams in sorrow, realizing that this is the child who welcomed him enthusiastically when he came here before. He asks Mephisto if this is the work of the people from before. Mephisto confirms his question, and Rick wonders why they make him feel so bad. Jane protects Isabel from the assassins. She screams and falls. Edith lifts her up and asks if she is okay. Isabel reassures them, saying she is fine, and asks them not to worry about her. She orders them to focus on finding the tomb, since they don't know when the assassins will return. Ed insists that she should rest now. Isabel asserts that she is the daughter of the Blue Lion. She tells them that she doesn't want to be a burden to them any longer. Ed and Jane look at Isabel with concern, and she takes out the map, thinking that many people have died because of the assassins pursuing her, and because of them, she cannot allow herself to crumble here. Isabel realizes that it has been a month since they started searching for the tomb. She wonders where in the world it is. Isabel looks up at the sky and misses her father. As she walks through the corridor of the Blue Lion family palace, Isabel hears two men gossiping about how talentless and useless she is, since she can't even handle a sword properly. She tries to wield the swords but fails again. Isabel wonders why she has no talent. She recalls all the bad comments she has received, and wonders if she can even call herself the daughter of the Blue Lion. Isabel's father, Blue Lion Hermanville, calls her from behind and sits next to her. He tells Isabel that he regrets placing such a heavy burden on her. The flame behind him and sits beside her. He tells Isabel that he regrets putting such a heavy burden on her. Isabel interrupts him, saying it's all because she isn't good enough. Herman reassures Isabel. He tells her there's no need for her to follow in his footsteps and become the Blue Lion. He reminds her that she is not the Blue Lion but a proud member of the Villi family. She tries to argue, but Herman laughs, saying he is still in top form. He asks her not to worry about him, and he says he will continue to pursue his dream of becoming the best swordsman on the continent. Upon hearing this, Isabel smiles and closes her tear-filled eyes. After that, Herman, the Villi, and Isabel ask the doctor why he isn't waking up. The doctor responds that these are symptoms similar to a blockage disease. The doctor explains that Ramonvilo's mana became uncontrolled because he used the aura very recklessly. The doctor warns Isabel that if they do not take action, soon Ramonvilo's muscles will atrophy. He said the problem will be resolved if they restore his mana flow. But it's almost impossible with human skill, because Ramonvilo simply has too much mana. The doctor tells Isabel that at this point, they have no choice but to rely on a magical tool. Isabel leaves the palace with her servants, determined to save her father, as regular items are completely useless for her father's treatment. She was desperate for an advanced magical tool that the magic tower or the academy might possess, but it was futile. Even with her magical tools, having searched the entire continent tirelessly, she couldn't find a single clue that would help in her father's treatment. Isabel. Here's a man talking about the tomb of the king who ruled the ice mountain in the Yeti Highlands, and the possibilities of treasures there. She hears that the man is planning to steal the magical tools from there. Then the other man curses the first, and asks if he wants to be eaten by Yetis just because of a myth. After researching this tomb as if clinging to a last hope, Isabel discovered that the tomb existed, and even found out where it might be. But a problem arose because this fact reached the ears of Isabel's uncle, Puvil, who was waiting for an opportunity to take the Blue Lion's seat, and sent assassins to kill her. Isabel grits her teeth and wonders how deep their monstrosity goes. The assassins continue attacking Isabel's team, and one prevents her from hiding, and holds Isabel's hand. They hide behind a huge rock together. Chain looks at Ranu, and he tells Chain that everyone has been looking for him. Isabel looks at the 6th unit of the Blue Wolf and realizes that Puvil secretly created them. Ranu tells Chang that, since he is still a member of the Vili family, he will at least end it quickly. He tells Chang that since he is here, Isabel must be nearby. Chang shouts at Ranu not to talk nonsense, saying he will pay for Isaac's life with his own life. Isabel tries to confront Ranu, but Ida stops her, saying she shouldn't go, and that they can't stop them just with this. She insists that he let her go, because Chen will die if they continue like this, and tells Isabel that Chen is risking his life to buy enough time for them to escape. He asks Isabel if she plans to waste Chen's sacrifice. Isabel grits her teeth, and Ranu warns her to leave, saying that her royal servant Chen will die if they continue like this. Chen told her that Isabel left a long time ago. Ranu smiled ironically, and said to think that Isabel abandoned her loyal knights. She is quite cold. He claims that he will now cut off Chen's head. Ranu swings his sword towards Chen. Seeing this, Isabel immediately steps out from behind the rock and shouts for Ranu to stop. She begs Ranu with tears to kill her instead and let Chen go. Ranu apologizes, saying they were ordered to kill everyone related or who witnessed this event. He tells Isabel that if she hadn't run away, everyone would be alive and living their happy lives with their families. Manu says it is truly a shame. Upon hearing this, Isabel realizes that innocent people died because of someone like her. She decides to put an end to this, but suddenly, Ranu sees someone on the branch of a tree and asks who is there, and Rick transforms and replies that he is just a passing demon. The assassins look at Rick, and he curses them. Ranu asks Rick if he is some kind of demon worshipper, and if this is some kind of avant-garde nonsense. He tells Rick that he would have lived if he had just passed by. Ranu's eyes widen when Rick uses his magic spell and lands on the ground. Ranu asks Rick who the hell he is. Rick asks Isabel if she is okay. Isabel looks at Rick in astonishment and replies that she is fine, and asks if he is also okay. Rick responds that he is fine seeing Rick on the ground. The Blue Wolves wonder if all mages usually land like that. The Blue Wolves wonder why Rick is not getting up, or if he might be embarrassed. Rick gets up and states that he would have made an impressive entrance if it weren't for the snow. Ranu looks at Rick in confusion, and Isabel wonders if Rick is the person who disappeared. She realizes that she cannot let Rick get involved in this. Isabel asks Rick to run, saying that this does not concern him. Ranu tells Isabel that he already told her that they will leave no witnesses. He orders his team to eliminate Rick. Seeing this, Rick looks at Ranu and says that something like benevolence is wasted on trash like him. He casts his spell against the Blue Wolf members who came to attack him and enters into a battle against them. Isabel and Ed watch the scene in disbelief, and Ranu asks what is happening. Ranu orders his members to hurry and kill. To Rick, he orders them not to give Rick time to cast when a member of the Blue Wolves raises his sword towards Rick. Rick blocks his attack and asks who allowed this. He skillfully penetrates them, and they begin to fight against his spell. Seeing this, Ranu shouts at Elric asking who he is and if he is doing all this knowing who they are. Elric laughs and replies that he doesn't care who they are. He taunts Ranu, saying they should bow first. Hano grits his teeth and then tells Elric that he will kill him. Isabel watches with Ed and Kane and wonders who on earth Elric is, because he is dominating the Blue Wolves so easily. She thinks that Elric is definitely a powerful wizard, but feels that he is dangerous, because he will have problems if she gets close to him. Ranu jumps towards Ulrich with his sword, saying he will kill him. Ulrich looks at him and realizes that he is fast. Isabel appears and shouts for Ranu to keep his distance from Ulrich. Ulrich uses his enhancement spell Iron Manant and creates ice stones in front of him. Ranu smiles and asks Rick if he really thinks he can block him with magic like that. Ranu breaks the ice, rocks in fury, and shouts at Rick, asserting that this is the end. Rick again creates a huge ice rock in front of him and Ranu tries to break it. Ranu asks why this is not breaking. Rick laughs and mocks Hano, saying that the most important thing is that his head will be buried in the ground. Hano panics and it is Rick who uses his final spell and ends them all. Seeing all this, Ed comments that it is unbelievable that Rick eliminated the blue wolves in an instant. Jane adds that it is also unbelievable to think that there was such a wizard on the slope. Isabel looks at Rick and wonders how he can be so powerful when he is not even her age. She wonders if Rick is so strong at such a young age, then he could be at the same level as Taxa and Neresta, one of the 3 new stars. Rick closes his eyes and sighs, remembering the memories of the child and the Aetes, and wishes that their souls rest in peace. Mephisto calls Rick, saying that Isabel and her members are looking at him with such unease. Mephisto asks why he doesn't say something to them, because they are looking at him so much that even his neck hurts. He calls Henrique again, but he does not hear. After this, Elric slowly turns with a smile and looks at Isabel, saying that it has been a while. Jane thinks that despite Elric helping them, he is still a complete stranger, and it is too early to let their guard down. She thinks that Elric is as dangerous as the Blue Wolves, if he has any hidden motives. Isabel kneels before Elric and thanks him for saving her. Ed and Kane look at Isabel incredulously and ask how she can kneel to Elric. Elric immediately says that she doesn't need to go that far. Isabel also orders Kane and Ed to kneel before. They obey Isabel and thank Elric for saving them. Mephisto comments that it seems Isabel knows what courtesy is, unlike Kane and Ed. Elric says he just did what anyone would do and asks them to stand up. Isabel stands and asks Elric if she can ask him a favor, and Rick responds, with a smile, that he has to go somewhere else. She holds his hand in her palms and says she would like to make a request, and Rick looks at her hand and then at Isabel. After that, their carriage moves through the dark place, and Rick sits in front of Ed and Isabel. Mephisto tells Rick that he can see the corners of his lips lifting. He irritably asks Rick to hide that properly. Rick wipes the sweat from his face and replies that it is to be expected since he received something so valuable. He looks at the gold coin in the palm of his hand. Rick remembers the previous conversation with Isabel before sitting in this carriage. Isabel gives him the gold coin, and he asks if it is the gold coin upon seeing the blue lion symbol on it. He asks Isabel if she is a lady of the whale family. Isabel replies that it is shameful to admit, but she is. Rick realizes that this explains why she is so exceptionally beautiful, a flower without fragrance. Isabel. Well, although her beauty was enough for even the heir prince to fall in love with her and ask for her hand in marriage, she was abandoned because she was a flower without perfume, just because she was not born with talent. Isabel believes that if the flesh and blood of the lion do not have sharp teeth and claws, then their value equally diminishes. Rick looks at Isabel and remembers hearing that she was living as a recluse on her estate. After some time, the marriage was dissolved. He steps back. He smiles and introduces himself, saying it is an honor to meet the only daughter of the Blue Lion. Isabel asks him why it would be an honor to meet someone like her, and Rick responds with a smile, that it is okay to have confidence. He tells her that from what he saw, even in her city, it is something that would not shame the name of the Blue Lion. Isabel thanks him for his encouraging words. Henry reminds Isabel that she mentioned something about a commission for him. Isabel replies that she has nothing at the moment, but she is embarrassed. He wants them to accompany him to the imperial capital. Kane tries to interrupt, saying they haven't found that place yet. Isabel tells Kane that she doesn't want to lose them, due to her own greed. She states that she will meet her uncle to negotiate with him first. Upon hearing Isabel talk about her uncle, Rick realizes that those knights from before seem to be part of the whale family as well. He wonders if there are some internal fights within the whale family, because he heard that the Blue Lion was sick with something similar to the blocking disease. Elric's eyes widen when he realizes that he could use this to make the Blue Lion indebted to him. He begins to speculate what would happen if the revived Myrmgander joined the Blue Lion. Elric imagines it will be a true spectacle. He laughs, thinking that being smart is the best. Rick coughs, and Isabel tells him that despite needing to resort to their skills, she would like to give him about 2 times what she just gave, as a reward upon completion. Rick murmurs in response, and looks at the gold coin in the palm of his hand. Isabel assumes that Rick cannot do this, and reaches out to take the gold coin from. Rick immediately holds her hand, and states that he will escort them safely. Now back at the carriage, Mephisto asks Rick why he needs money, when there are tons of treasures in that Shine's nest. Rick responds that he has a plan, and asks Mephisto not to say something like that, if he has never been cold and hungry before. Rick looks sternly at Mephisto and asks what he should do. When he has no money with him now, he tells Mephisto that it may not matter to him since he is an insignificant ghost, but humans need money to eat and sleep. Mephisto sighs and comments that this is the problem with humans. And Rick tells him that this sound conduction thing is quite convenient, and he can send words to the target he wants with just a small amount of mana. Mephisto smiles and tells Rick that he only taught him because he was so silently irritated with him. When other people were around, Rick laughs and teases Mephisto, calling him a chatterbox, saying it's no wonder he hates being quiet so much. Mephisto looks furiously at him and asks how he dares. Isabel looks at Rick and notices that he isn't saying a word. She wonders if it's because she hired him, but she knows she needs his help, because if her Uncle Paul sends even stronger blue wolves, there is no way the three of them can block them. In her Uncle Isabel's palace, Powell rises from the throne and asks if Troop 6 has been annihilated. The member of the Blue Wolf bows before Powell and apologizes with tears. Powell tells him that if he is regretful, then he shouldn't have done something to regret in the first place. Powell finishes him off with his sword and asks Hilton what he thinks Isabel will do. The leader of the Blue Wolf team, Hilton, he responds that since traces of Isabel have been confirmed leaving the Ice Mountain, she will probably return to the Imperial capital. Paul asks if Isabel is returning to the Imperial capital, then does that mean she will try to negotiate with him? Hilton replies that it is very likely to happen. Paul puts his sword back in its sheath and asks how a girl as incompetent as Isabel can try to negotiate with him. He tells Hilton that he only has one chance. The carriage arrives at the estate, and Jane informs Isabel that they have arrived. Isabel smiles and says that they arrived in just 2 days without resting, so she is feeling quite stiff. Isabel smiles and says they arrived in just 2 days without resting, so she is feeling quite stiff. Mephisto's body aches all over, and Rick laughs, calling him a floating ghost. He asks Mephisto why he is upside down. When he knows that the correct posture eases the mind, Rick looks outside the carriage and sees the Blue Wolves. He looks into their memories and sees Hilton with other members. Hilton orders them to also gather the squad. Blue Wolf. He tells them that they must mobilize the most powerful squad for something so trivial, because Isabel's return to the capital is no different from a declaration of surrender. Hilton asserts that a hunting dog must act as such. He says that Isabel will undoubtedly pass through Latent if she is coming from the Ice Mountain to the Imperial capital. Hilton orders other members to turn that place into Isabel and her people's tomb, emerging from the memories. I laugh, wide-eyed. Isabel looks at the Blue Wolves and says she hoped they couldn't move freely since the Lord governs this place, but she never expected it to come to this point. Jane asks Isabel if they should go back. Isabel shakes her head, saying they have already drawn the attention of the Blue Wolves, and that will only make them more suspicious. She asks Tim to abandon the carriage, saying they must leave here secretly and find another place. It's Rick who interrupts, saying there is no need to do that. Isabel asks what his plan is. Rick smiles and uses his display magic. The carriage begins to move, passing by all the Blue Wolves without drawing their attention. They arrive at the location and exit the carriage. Isabel asks Rick what magic he used, and Rick laughs, responding that it is just a simple illusion magic that makes his appearance look like something else for a moment. He adds that it is nothing more than a hypnosis that can be undone with the slightest shock, so they need to be careful. Isabel thanks Elric, saying they entered the city safely because of him, and that she is grateful from the bottom of her heart. Elric asks them to stay here for a night and says he will return soon because he has some matters to resolve. Isabel asks him to come back safely. Rick and Mephisto begin to walk through the city streets. Mephisto asks Rick why he bothered to use illusion magic when he could have simply taken care of everyone. Rick responds that he didn't want to fight, when he didn't even know the scale of his enemies. Rick adds that he also needs to conserve his mana for emergencies. Mephisto questions Rick about what he thinks the soul speech and seals are for, and if he is just being lazy. He asks Rick if he should go to the academy or something like that soon anyway. Rick responds that he should, but he needs to figure something out first. Rick informs Mephisto that he needs to know what kind of situation their dean is in so he can prepare to defeat him. Mephisto smiles and exclaims that he doesn't know who the dean is, but that he is a man of little luck because he is being marked by Rick. He needs to know what kind of situation their dean is in so that he can prepare to defeat him. Mephisto smiles and exclaims that he doesn't know who the dean is, but that he is a man of little luck as he is being marked by Elric. Rick sighs, and they continue walking. Mephisto tells Rick that he felt something similar to mana coming from those nights. He asks Rick what that was. Rick tells Mephisto that he thinks the aura current didn't exist in his time. Mephisto is confused, and it's Rick who explains that mana is originally a blessing given to wizards. But over time, even martial artists developed a method to apply mana to their bodies. Rick adds that, while wizards use magic by creating mana circles in their hearts, martial artists strengthen their bodies by channeling aura currents around their dantians. Rick tells Mephisto that just as wizards are ranked as 6th Circle wizards, 7th Circle archmages, and 8th Circle sages, martial artists are ranked as 1st current users, 2nd advanced in current, 3rd experts in current, 4th masters of current, and 5th superior in current. Rick informs Mephisto that Isabel's knights are around user rank. Mephisto asks Rick if there are only 5. Rick replies that there are usually 5, but there is one exception, and only one person has formed more than 5 currents. Mephisto asks who that person is, and Rick says that person is the Golden Lion. He informs Mephisto that the Golden Lion is considered the strongest being on the continent. Mephisto comments that it's an arrogant name, and that it is nothing but human standards. Rick tells him that the Golden Lion was a peer of his grandfather, who was one of the greatest in the history of Mervenger. Mephisto smiles, and tells Rick that he would love to meet the Golden Lion one day. When they finally arrive at the location, Rick notices that Mephisto is stuck in something again. He decides to focus on important things and buys newspapers for a month to find out what happened during the time he was absent. On the other hand, Veru asks Lebern if it has still not been resolved. Kai kneels before him and apologizes, saying that the Neresses are guarding the hospital like an impenetrable fortress, which makes Veru curse. Then he informs that since his conquest, the discovery of the nest has been commented on by academic circles and the press. He is far superior to the other candidates for the approval rankings in the election for director. Then Vero says that one never knows what will happen if he doesn't get the excavation licenses for the nest. He declares that he wants a crushing victory. Leben asks Veru to simply give him his order. Jin orders him to pressure the Neresses even more. Then Leben goes to Xian and informs him that the pressure placed on the transfer of excavation rights for the nest by academic spheres and the press is serious. He tells Xian that this situation is no different from stabbing his supervising teacher in the back. The academic circles are in an uproar upon hearing this. Mephisto smiles and tells Elric that he would love to meet the Golden Lion. One day, when they finally arrive at the location, Elric notices that Mephisto is stuck in something again. He decides to focus on important things and buys newspapers for a month to find out what happened during his absence. On the other hand, Veru asks Lebern if it has still not been resolved. Kai kneels before him and apologizes, saying that the Neresses are guarding the hospital like an impenetrable fortress. This makes Veru curse, and then he informs that since his conquest, the discovery of the nest has been commented on by academic circles and the press. He is far superior to the other candidates for the approval ratings in the election for director. Then Vero says that one never knows what will happen. If he does not obtain the excavation permits for the nest, he declares that he wants a landslide victory. Leben asks Veruca to simply give him his order. Jin orders him to pressure the Neresses even more, so Leben goes to Xian. He informs that the pressure placed on the transfer of excavation rights for the nest by academic spheres and the press is serious. He tells Xian that this situation is no different from stabbing his supervising professor in the back. The academic circles are in an uproar upon hearing this, and informs that the pressure placed on the transfer of excavation rights from the nest by academic spheres and the press is serious. He tells Xian that this situation is no different from stabbing his supervising professor in the back. The academic circles are in an uproar upon hearing this. Behind the scenes, the academic circles are in an uproar upon hearing this. Chan sadly cries about what his sister impresses him with every single day, and Rick hasn't contacted him not even once. Chan looks at the papers on the table. He declares that he has already made up his mind and will continue to endure until Rick returns. It's Rick. He reads everything in the newspaper and comments that the dean is as cunning as ever. He says that Chan is going through hell because of him. It's Rick who tells the dean that he is using the press. The older you get, the more cunning you become, quite like Mephisto. He continues to stare at Elric, and Elric pounds his fist on the newspaper, asking Aldim to come up, because this will only make his debut stage more fabulous. It's Rick. He sighs and expresses that he feels very bad for Chan. He asks if there is anything he can do for him. Suddenly, it's Rick. Mephisto hears chaos coming from outside. They look out the window and witness the fire outside. It's Rick who grits his teeth and opens the gate. They witness the fire burning everywhere. Tane asks Isabel if she trusts Elric. Isabel responds that he saved her. Tane expresses his concern, saying that Elric may not be a subordinate of Paul Wale, but he could be an assassin sent by the other 7 lions, targeting the main property. Tane adds that he cannot be sure, but they must prepare for this possibility. Isabel understands where Cheng is coming from, but realizes that he has become overly protective since the time they were attacked on the ice mountain. Isabel tells Cheng that she understands what he is trying to say, but she asks him to keep in mind that doubting Elric is also doubting her decision. Ed and Cheng look at Isabel in disbelief. She remembers Elric's face and realizes that she trusts him, thinking that the expression Elric made that day is something only a just person can do. Cheng says he understands, but that Elric is a mercenary who only wants money, and Sobel denies it, saying that Elric probably did it on purpose. Ed and Cheng look at her confused. She explains that Elric helped them from the beginning, without any compensation. Isabel said that Elric would have helped them even if they hadn't hired him, but his face changed as soon as he found out they were from the Wale family. Isabel told them that Elric took into account that their family's reputation could be tarnished, and purposely lowered himself. Ed exclaims, saying he understands that it's Rick who did such a thing, to not make the Blue Lion look weak. Isabel smiles, and starts to say something to Kane, but suddenly the place explodes due to the fire attack. Looking at the burning area, the leader of Squad 3, Blue Wolf Simonon, asks the leader of Squad 2, Blue Wolf Beskov, if it isn't burning quite a lot. Politely, he asks Beskov if it's really worth the price of a scroll containing the fourth circle of the heatwave summoning. Beskov asks Simon how he can laugh at this. Simon looks at Beskov and says he was agreeing with his opinion not long ago and now he is acting seriously. He asks Biskov if he knows how much he had to spend on this thing. Biskov curses Simon and says he can't think of anything better. Besides considering Isabel's personality, he says she will show up to help people. Not Simon asks if they should burn a little more. Beskov tells Simon that Team 6 has been eliminated, and according to Hilton, there are at least 3 or more missing enemies. He informs Simon that Hilton said to be careful, as there may be wizards among them. Simon asserts that he could take out those weaklings from Squad 6. With his eyes closed, Simon tells Beskov that he and Hilton worry too much. He smiles, saying that since he came all this way, it would be great if they were strong enough to entertain him. Beskov agrees, and asks him to order his team to find Isabel and eliminate everyone except her. Isabel continues to crawl, to protect herself from the fire. She hears someone asking her to hide. Isabel looks for Ed and Cheng and asks if they are okay. She witnesses people crying and mourning their losses. Cheng begs her to run. Isabel grits her teeth and grabs her sword. She feels filled with rage at her helplessness, because she wants to confront them head-on and save the people. But Isabel knows she has neither the power nor the talent to stop them. Isabel stands up, telling herself that she doesn't want to run and live such a shameful life. She remembers Eric's motivational words that he told her and realizes she wants to become like him. Isabel begins to step out. Thinking that she is a member of the Weo family, the protector of the Empire, she decides that even if she might die, she will fight until the end. Suddenly Isabel sees the fire starting to extinguish. She wonders what happened, but then realizes it was Elric, and understands that it was him. Isabel sees Elric freezing the area with his mana, and everyone starts murmuring that they are saved. Seeing Elric, Isabel thinks she doesn't know how long it will take, or it might be impossible, but she wonders if one day she will be able to stand by Elric. Elric asks Mephisto why the knights are killing innocent civilians. Mephisto replies that the anger of the Mervingas is usually dormant, but does not easily extinguish once it breaks. Mephisto explains that this is something he knows very well. As someone who confronted them in the past, he said that, unlike normal humans who make mistakes when they lose their reason, they become calmer, more relentless, and much stronger. I see that he stays in the tower and looks down at the blue wolves. Mephisto smiles, saying they seem to be more numerous and are much stronger than those he faced last time. He questions Elric if he thinks he can win now. Elric replies that it will be difficult, because he is not sure how long his mana will last, and he also cannot use magic freely among all these civilians. Mephisto asks Elric why he is not running. Then Elric tells him that there is a saying in his family, that those with power have the obligation to prove they are worthy of it, and Elric uses his power, and states that is why the Mervingas have always been at the forefront of all wars. The Blue Wolves, they recognize the magic of the 4 rings of the man, and know it's better not to oppose him. They wonder if he came from Turi, and if that is the case, they cannot mess with Turi. Their hearts fill with fear. Beskov knows all the wizards of Turi, and does not recognize the man, so they decide to be cautious and plan to leave as soon as they get Isabel, and if the wizard interferes, they have orders to kill him. However, the Blue Wolves cannot move. Isabel recognizes Sir Rick, who came to her aid. Sir Rick disappears, leaving only a trail of light through the city. He sees 40 people and decides to take this somewhere without civilians. The leader of the Blue Wolves blows a whistle. The soldiers gather, but Rick passes by them in a flash, leaving them surrounded by the Blue Wolves. They ask about Isabel, but of course, he refuses to tell. The Blue Wolves rush to attack Rick. Although Rick is powerful, he needs to be cautious. He has already used most of his mana to extinguish the fire in the city, and even though the mana in his dragon heart has increased significantly after devouring the seal, if he exceeds the limit again, It will have an impact on his body like last time. A flashback of his previous deaths crosses Rick's mind. He remembers that back then, he could simply give up and try again, but now, he needs to be cautious, because he only has one chance. Rick sees the number of 30 to 40 people. Now he knows Isabel was right. They are giving their best. Even though they are against one person, Rick pulls out his weapon and decides to attack the leader first. He runs to attack them, but to his surprise, he cannot move as before. My son, unmask your bluff of having defeated the Mountain King, but he swears he fought with her and could move as fast as he wanted. The blue wolf knocks Rick to the ground and drives his sword into the ground, barely missing Rick's head. My son remembers that reality is not as easy as his grandfather's game. Suddenly, another blue wolf rushes to attack Rick with enthusiasm. He thinks Rick is foolish for entering combat, hand to hand, and challenges him to use his magic. He uses his penetration ability and strikes his opponent, but is surprised when the attack barely scratches him. Both exchange blows, attacking each other, but then a loud crash resonates. A fog envelops them, making it hard to see. The fog dissipates, and the blue wolves think they have cornered Rick, like a rat, but then a flare lights up the sky. He just wanted to gather them all. A magical spell is activated around them. They underestimate Rick's magical ability, thinking it won't work. But then someone notices something. They see the eyes of Rick, something inhuman in them, and they decide to act now and kill Rick before he activates the magic. However, they can only wish when Rick was taking Isabella to a safe place. He asked about the fighting style of the blue wolves, and she told him that they fight in packs like wolves and attack their opponent until he is dead. It was with this information that Rick planned to gather them and defeat them once and for all. The trap was a suggestion from Isabella. Rick asks her for a favor. He told her to guide the citizens out of the square and tear the signaling magic scroll, because that is the only way for him to rise and finish everyone off. Meanwhile, Rick uses his mana trap and freezes everyone. He approaches one of the soldiers and calls them foolish puppets for not seeing the mana when he is about to deliver the last man. A miserable death. Someone interrupts at the last minute and attacks Rick. The blue wolves had a second formation watching. The way Rick lured them to kill everyone at once also impressed the blue wolves. They admire his confidence and strategic plan, but then notice a malicious smile on Rick's face, which makes them wonder if he knew they were spying on him. However, they do not believe it is possible, and if he knew, they think Rick would not have chosen to use a mana trap. The blue wolves tell Rick to hand over Isabella in exchange for his life, but Rick does not plan to let them live. He threatens to show no mercy because they abandoned their cavalry. The blue wolf tells his squad to protect themselves with aura and maintain formation. He rushes to attack Rick, but Rick dodges the blow. Rick counters with the Rust Curse spell, but it does not work. He then tries another attack, but fails again with the spell. Subsequently, Rick is also much weaker. He wonders if it is because of the seal of the Mountain King, because all spells except ice have become weaker. He questions whether he needs to acquire more seals to cast powerful spells of another nature. However, even using a seal is not easy. The seal of the Mountain King is difficult to use. In the mountains, Rick could draw his energy from the ice, but in a city, his ice abilities will not be as effective or efficient in terms of mana. But Rick has other ways to get out. He summons the blizzard. The blue wolves struggle to stay on their feet as the blizzard continues to grow stronger. Finally, their leader decides to end this now. He tells everyone to attack. But to his surprise, they all turn to ice. Rick's ice poison freezes anything that comes into contact with it, and the blue wolves made a mistake trying to block it. Instead of backing down, the blue wolves had never seen a magical spell like this. Rick tells them it is just his ice magic, combined with a curse. The blue wolves now realize that the squad leader made a mistake by sending them. Thus, the blue wolf threatens Rick for crossing their path and says that the leader will cut off his head. But before the blue wolf could say anything else, Rick killed him. Spreading his blood everywhere, he said he would not be alone in the afterlife, because the leader would be next. Meanwhile, just outside the town square, some of the blue wolves manage to escape thanks to Bestoff, and they have the scroll that contains the AC 6-ring fire wheel spell. They feel ashamed for fleeing the fight like cowards, but the leader tells them to keep running. He tells them to burn the city, burn everything, and even kill Isabel if necessary. But their only task is to turn the city to ashes. Mephi sensed the cunning plans of the blue wolves and alerted Rick about it. Suddenly, a huge explosion occurs in the city. Mephi thinks that humans are crazy and hypocritical. They are more evil than demons because they pretend to be noble while devastating cities. Rick quickly runs to find the remaining blue wolves. There are 3 left, and he can't find any. The use of the magic scroll of the six-ring spell that has the power to set the city ablaze makes the situation even more dire. Rick runs through the streets looking for the blue wolves. One of them is on a rooftop with the magic scroll in hand, and sees Rick running, but suddenly, out of nowhere, one of his arms was severed. It turns out that the invisibility cloak Rick gave to Isabel kept her hidden the whole time. The blue wolf pulls out a dagger in the other hand and prepares to attack Isabel, but Rick turns him to ice. Tired of the games, Rick reaches out to finish off the blue wolf, but then the blue wolf reminds him that it's not over for him. There are still two of them left. The other blue wolves spread chaos throughout the city. He tells Rick that they will have completed their preparations while he was busy dealing with him. He boasts about their commitment to the cause and tells Rick that he has lost and that the city will scream in agony. However, he underestimates Rick. When Rick used his magic before, running through the city, he had already spotted the other two blue wolves and impaled them with ice. Realizing he was defeated, the leader of the blue wolves begs for his life from Isabel. He hurriedly pleaded and said he would talk to Paul well. However, Isabel is fed up with people dragging her family's name through the mud. She swings the weapon and finishes off the leader of the blue wolves. Rick notices Isabel trembling and tells her to take a moment. Isabel asks Rick to capture one of the blue wolves for her. She tells him how the knights of her own family never respected her for having no talent, and those who did only did so out of obligation because she was the daughter of the Blue Lion. The blue wolves who worked for her Uncle Paul, well, never respected her and always gave her terrifying looks. The hatred for her was visible in their eyes. But now it is they who fear her. With Rick's help, she captures one of the blue wolves and tells him to inform Paul well that he will never be the Blue Lion. The blue wolf runs away in fear to deliver the message to Paul well. Isabel knows that it is not her they fear. In fact, they fear Rick. She feels sad about her fate and laments not having powers, but she also understands that she needs to pull herself together, and if she wants to be stronger, she will have to change her passive attitude first. Isabel's next action is to go to Konoe, where her father is. She plans to ask for help from some relatives who owe her father favors. Rick thinks it's a good idea to gather forces because no one would dare invade a place where the Blue Lion himself is. However, Isabel fears that she will lose the fight if her father's condition does not improve. If Rick helped, she might have a chance to win. But lions cannot ally with sorcerers. He has helped Isabel a lot, and she does not want to leave him now. But she has no choice but to say goodbye now. While Isabel continues to think about this, he hands her a dissertation. Isabel's father has a disease similar to monovascularity, and the dissertation is the cure for monovascularity, which Rick believes could help the Blue Lion. Isabel is surprised. When he hands over the dissertation for the cure for monovascularity, she does not understand what it means until she discovers the truth. Rick apologizes for hiding his identity, but Isabel is still confused about the situation. He reveals that his name is Elric Merving, and he is the master of House Merving. He is also called the Duke of the Shining Star. The title was granted to him by the Emperor himself, after using Mervinger, the Star Mage, to defeat the demons. The title has royal status and is equivalent to that of a duke. The title does not offer much governing power, but it was granted by the Emperor himself, so it is an honor. The expression on Isabel's face changes from confused to shocked. He should be unconscious in the hospital, and was incapable of the abilities that Rick possesses. However, Rick tells her that he had his reasons for hiding his identity. He suffered from monovascularity, and the dissertation he gave to Isabel is the cure he registered after experimenting on himself. Rick heard that the lion's condition is similar to his, so he thinks this could help the lion too. He tells Isabel that the Blue Lion would love to see her retaliate against the people who hurt him. Tears fill Isabel's eyes, and she wonders how she can repay everything he has done for her. Rick tells her not to worry because he will receive something in return. Tears stream down Isabel's cheeks, and she offers to repay him by making him a hero. While they try to rebuild the city, Mephi expresses his concern about him revealing his identity. However, Rick thinks that Paul Well will try to find him anyway, after he killed his blue wolves. Moreover, he has a unique magical signature, so finding him wouldn't be difficult, and since he is doing a favor to the Blue Lion, this could help him when he puts his family back on the map. Mephi is impressed with Elric's political skill. To gain a good reputation and prominence in a prestigious family, the civilians show their gratitude to Elric for helping them. If he hadn't defeated the Blue Wolves, who knows what they would have done. An elderly lady asks him to stay, but he respectfully declines. Chen, the knight of the Whale family, also shows his gratitude to Eric and thanks him for his help. He asks Kane what he will do next. Kane tells him that although it was Poe who committed this act, it was still a crime of Zueo, and as a knight of the family, he vows to stay and help those in need after this. He will go to Canoe and join Lady Isabel. My son is impressed with how they manage to manipulate people with sincerity, to make power seem bad. It is Rick who tells him that the nobles are trying to seek justice, not manipulation, with sincerity. As they depart, the civilians say goodbye and thank Elric for his help. Mephi thinks they seek justification, not justice. He then decides to pay a visit to the Dean. Meanwhile, Dean Varric is furious with Leben for not bringing him the excavation rights. He yells at him that he hired him to get rid of the obstacles. And at this moment, Zana remains that obstacle. The Dean threatens Labor's career in the academic field if he does not fulfill his job. He doesn't care if he needs to persuade the media or bribe superiors, as long as the work gets done. Dean Varric is frustrated, with only 3 days left until the election. If he doesn't secure those rights, he is doomed to fail. When Labor leaves, the room fills with a purple flame, and Lazuli enters the room. He asks Dean Veru if he wishes to join him now. Dean Veru asks Lazuli how he will secure the excavation rights for him and make him a minister. Lazuli tells him that everything has already been arranged and they are just waiting for the Dean to join him. Jim Varric asks how they managed to do what he couldn't, but Lazuli says that if he doesn't trust them, it is better to cancel the deal. He says he trusts them and asks what they want in return. Lazuli replies that they want his support for Siesta, which Jim Veru finds very simple. He confirms, again, if that is really all they want. But Lazuli says with a mischievous smile that it is all they want. Meanwhile, in the city, people gossip about the events in the city of Lesson and the level of destruction that occurred. They sing tales about some wizard who took down the attackers and how they call him the hero of Lesson. It was Isabel who spread the rumors about Elric's heroic deeds to gain favorable public opinion for him. When she offered to make him a hero, she suggested spreading heroic stories about Elric so that when he is ready to reveal himself to the world, he has the favor of the public. On the other hand, this will help Isabel pressure Paul and build her own reputation. People gossip about the romance between Isabel and the Crown Prince and the teenage hero. This makes Elric think that they are more interested in romances than in heroic deeds. In any case, he knows that Isabel is really good at turning a situation to her advantage. Heroic tales or romances are an effective way to publicize a name, which makes Rick think they are more interested in romances than in heroic deeds. Either way, he knows that Isabel is really good at turning a situation to her advantage. Heroic tales or romances are an effective way to publicize a name. I laughed that I hope to have someone like Isabel to help him when he tries to rebuild his family's name. I laughed that he tells Mephi to get off the table and decides to go somewhere else to eat, but as he leaves, someone interrupts him. A loud crash happens, and smoke covers the scene, making it impossible to see exactly what is happening. The fight draws people's attention. They wonder if it is Powell, which it couldn't be since they are in the capital. Meanwhile, I laugh that the attacker exchanges a few blows. He recognizes the magic and dodges the attack. He tells the man that it is not a way to greet a friend. The man told him that he should have expected this when he showed up and calls him a traitor. The attacker is Chan Nyesta, the third son of the Nyesta family and Elric's executor, the traitor. The spectators are surprised when Elric calls Chan his best friend. What they thought was a fight was just a friendly joke. Meanwhile, Chan comments on how he has to clean up the mess from the crazy dog Mervingy every time, and says that personality has never been his strong point. Chan orders iced tea, Oronavim beer, and some food while they discuss the plan and catch up on conversation. Meanwhile, Elric thinks that Chan must have sensed the change in his magic, but he hasn't mentioned it yet, so he is probably waiting for Elric to bring it up. He and Chan exchange a bit of banter about Elric's appearance. Chan tells him that he is preparing for the show he mentioned in the letters, but is worried that Elric might lose everything. However, Elric only cares about two things now: taking down Varys, who tried to kill him, and restoring his family's honor. Convinced by Elric, Chan agrees to do what Elric asked him. Chan starts telling Elric about Cal's busy life, but quickly becomes overwhelmed with panic and anxiety. He realizes that Taxa, the witch of the Nyesta family, must have already heard the news. He is worried that she will go crazy if she finds out and could ruin their plan. Meanwhile, Taxa is furious about the excavation rights being handed over to the academy. She decides to rush to the hospital immediately and asks Hanabi to inform her. At the academy, she decides to run to the hospital immediately and asks Hanabi to inform her, because until yesterday, the newspapers were criticizing the Chancellor Veru Hanabi, reading the headlines of the newspapers about the family and the rest giving up the excavation rights, and Chancellor Veru winning the. However, Tasha does not believe that her father would have left the Rexicle to send him. She asks about Chan, but Hanabi says that Chan also did not respond. Tasha is upset that Chan is not responding after she had them defend Rick. She decides to change fate and surprise everyone because the excavation rights do not belong to the family in the Aresta or to the Academy. She finally realizes the play and decides to make a memorable visit to Chan and Rick. Meanwhile, Rick infiltrates the palace, where the electoral committee is meeting. The position of Minister of the Uzdan Academy is no longer more significant than that of the head of a magic academy, but its influence is more powerful and symbolic than one can imagine. The title is considered as noble as that of a marquis alongside the masters of the Excal Tower and the captain of the knights, imperial sorcerers who have great influence over the academy and politics. Holding this position means that you carry the honor of us the Mervinger, the sorcerer of the Potubsky stars, and the election is today, so it is Rick who has to sort things out, before it is too late. Meanwhile, Chancellor Varu heads to the committee and boasts of his participation in the discovery of the Diamond Dragon's Nest. A historic achievement, he sings his praises and promises to make more discoveries, like this, to win a vote from.